Pahlavi text translated by E.W. West, Part 4, Contents of the Nasks, Clarendon, Oxford University Press, 1892, Dinkard, Book 9, Chapter 52, 1. The sixth Vargard, Ad ta Vakshya, is this, that by him who is a wise upholder of the dignity of a priest's leadership, the priestly assembly, wanted for performing religious rites, deno, is enlarged for this reason, because the nature of the person whose resources are bounty for the needy eagerly becomes a causer of exertion for the teaching, a muko of accomplishments. 2. This too, that by him whose habits are virtuous, the glorification of Auharmazd is accomplished and taught, even on this account, for the sake of whatever advantage and pleasure are due to virtue, they indeed whose habits are virtuous glorify him, moreover, who is the creator of those virtuous habits, who is Auharmazd himself. 3. This too, that by him who speaks virtuous words, the performance even of the worship of Bahuman is also taught, even on this account, because of the comeliness and desirableness of virtue. The good make it an example and speak virtuous words, and virtuous speaking is the worship of Bahuman. 4. This too, that the ceremonial which he whose way is virtuous shall accomplish becomes greater thereby, even for this reason, because the sacred beings come more particularly to the ceremonial of those of pure dispositions and virtuous ways, and accept it. 5. This too, that he who is a producer of benefit for the promoters of good works becomes an extender of the teaching of religion, even for this reason, because from producing benefit for promoters of good works arises an increase of good works. From an increase of good works arises further progress of the will of the sacred beings. From further progress of the will of the sacred beings arises more progress of the good religion, and from more progress of the good religion arises an extension of the teaching of the good religion in the world. 6. This too, that by him who possesses authority through virtue, discrimination as to the regulation of duties is taught to mankind, even for this reason, because the possessor of authority through virtue is a man who becomes a decider and ruler, and mankind learn and practice to exercise the disposition, habits, and customs of rulers. 7. This too, that he who is a giver of the needful to his own needy ones has given himself to Zarathustra, even for this reason, because the needful being given to one's own needy ones is the existence of true liberality, which is a compendium of the religion of Zarathustra. By him who is thereby ennobled, Vaspu Harakani Aito, the religion of Zarathustra, is then put on, and whoever has put on the religion of Zarathustra has given himself to Zarathustra. 8. This too, that by him who gives the leadership to him who is suitable for the leadership, even the wisdom of that man is increased. For this reason, because even the wisdom of the suitable through which they accomplish that leadership, when the leadership comes to them, grows further with the glory of that duty. 9. This too, that he who has to select the better of two ways, which are good and bad, is assisted to do so by the benefitter's ordeal of fire, and or, even for this reason, because that is discrimination by the eye of wisdom, which is the way of good intention, and the benefitters are decisive declarers of acquittal and incrimination through fire and metal, the two good discriminators. And when the business is of a different kind, even then both are associates in discriminating, and are powerful connections of one another. 10. This too, that he who shall do that thing from which advantage of the sacred beings arises is empowered to discriminate truly that which is sagacious in thought, word, and deed, even for this reason, because from doing anything for the advantage of the sacred beings arises the reign of the will of the sacred beings in the world. From the reign of the will of the sacred beings in the world arises the freedom from danger of the temporal existence of the world, and the freedom from danger of the temporal existence of the world contributes also to the power of him who is sagacious in discriminating truly as to thought, word, and deed. 11. This too, that by him who thinks of the affairs of Uharmazd, the eternity, Hama Yiki of Uharmazd, and also the consideration of his own eternity by Uharmazd, are thought of even on this account, because mankind mind and serve Uharmazd for the sake of even the hope of eternal benefit from him, and they who think of him through the eternal benefit due to him are themselves increasing that benefit which is eternal, and it is thought eternal by him that thinks of that eternal thing, his own eternity. 12. This too, that he who restrains a person from reverence of the demons has diverted him from making the world sickly, even for this reason, because whoever has restrained a person from reverence of the demons has diverted a demon from making the world anarchical and from making the world sickly. 13. This too, that by him who shall practice liberality, benefit for the Son is caused, and by him who shall cause benefit for the Son, benefit is caused also for the nature of the body of mankind, even for this reason, because it is declared that the Son has progressed through the radiance and glory of the liberal, and the nature of the body of mankind is preserved by the Son. 14. This too, that by him whose desire is for anything virtuous, and who possesses authority through virtue, mankind are controlled to persist maninidano in virtue for receiving a reward, even for this reason, because he who desires is virtuous, seek happiness for everyone, a preeminent desire for the happiness of human existence, being the desire of mankind for virtue, and by him who requires that and strives for it fully, so far as possible for him, any one whatever is brought to persist in virtue and to constrain the spirit for reward, and by him who possesses authority through virtue, the continuance of mankind in authority and their persistence and instruction in virtue are attached to the good works and are brought to reward. 15. This too, that by him who possesses happiness through appropriation of the sacred beings, mankind are attached to the sacred beings for receiving a reward, even for this reason, because on account of the possession of happiness through appropriation of the sacred beings, he possesses it through the assistance and gratification of the good, and mankind shall therefore make him an example. It also becomes a good work for them, and they adhere to the sacred beings for receiving a reward. 16. This too, that by him who produces the benediction of him that is a conductor of investigation and a righteous judge, and who shall also occasion the reverence of the good, the teaching of the advantage of the righteous is likewise performed, even for this reason, because the essentials, madigan, of the advantage of the world are two, one owing to justice and one owing to generosity, and it is declared that the advantage of him who possesses the blessings of the judges is owing to the justice of the judges, and the advantage of him who is reverent to the good is owing to the generosity of the good in developing the world, and the righteous teach about it. 17. Righteousness is perfect excellence. Verse 15 reminds us of the Devatas in, what people call Hinduism. The Upanishads, some of the Upanishads mention it. And we also take that principle back to inflect it in a different way when we look at verse 3. The worship of Bohuman doesn't mean necessarily that a person worships this angel. It's that this is the angel over such and such. Or just like when you have a prophet set an example, that example setting, it's the worship of that, but they're not they're not treating the prophet as a deity. They are worshiping in the way of the prophet, and that's such and such is specifically their legacy. But let's not go too far in deciding on discriminations or distinctions between the prophets, other than, one came to one time and place and another came to another time and place.